Hello and welcome back to Father and Son Tractors. I'm going to take you through just a quick service with Frankie today. We're going to drain the oil out, we're going to change the oil filter and clean the canister you can see here that holds the oil filter, and we're also going to clean the air filter out as well. This is off the back of, I don't know when these tractors are meant to be serviced. We just use it for charity road runs and things and a little bit of work in the field. I think it's every 1600 hours or something, but don't quote me on that. So I don't know when Frankie's ever been serviced. We've certainly never serviced him. But I'm suffering with low oil pressure at the moment. The oil pressure is high to start with, middle of the gauge, and when the engine gets hot, the oil pressure drops. I'm told that could be to do with the oil heating up and getting thin, if it is slightly diluted with the TVO, because Frankie is a petrol TVO tractor. We just run it on straight petrol, but I don't know what it's been run on in the past. So a solution can be to just give it a complete service and some nice new engine oil, and we'll see if he holds pressure there. I have been told that you can adjust this screw in here on top of the oil filter to get more oil pressure. Now that's not quite accurate. If your engine's been rebuilt, so it's as new inside, then yes, that can up the oil pressure. But if you're suffering a complete loss and it's nothing to do with the engine oil being diluted with TVO or whatnot, then actually no, that's nonsense. It'll be due to worn parts inside, worn bearings on the big end and things like that. And that's adjusting that screw isn't going to get you any more oil pressure when your pressure drops. Absolute nonsense. So right, anyway, let's undo the bolt underneath the sump and start draining the oil and see how we get on. Right, so this is the big sump nut here. I've just had to crack it off with a bar on the end of the ratchet because it's really stiff, but I'm going to loosen it off quite a bit. But before it goes all the way, I'll put a bucket underneath. I have got these rubber gloves on because the oil can really stain your hands, and it just, you'll see in a minute, it just pours out and goes everywhere. You have to sort of unscrew. It's not quite coming out, but the nut, let's see, you can see the nut is very nearly out, look. So let's just get that out of the way really quickly. You see, like, all over my hands there. Fortunately, oh, look at that. So you got there, thick gunge, look, thick gunge. So yes, this oil hasn't been changed in a long time. Right, so the oil is just at a drip now. It's been dripping for a little while. And we have cleaned up the sump nut that was full of gunge. So we'll try and get that back in a second. Move the bucket a little bit, give the edge of the opening a little wipe, and then quickly try and put the nut back in so that we don't contaminate the rim too much. He says not successfully screwing the nut. There we go. Little bit of oil has seeped over the edge, sort of making it slippy to move, so we'll put it back in now with the spanner. I don't want to jinx it, they're generally pretty good at sealing these big nuts here. There's a lot of thread on them. There's no kind of O-ring or anything, or fibre washer, there you go, nice and tight on there, to seal it. It really is just metal on metal. I don't know if there should be. I'll put right here if there should be or not. I'll put a comment, bing, there, and I'll find that out for you. I would have thought there should be, but actually this one didn't have one and it had never leaked, so I've done that up nice and tight. I've got no, doesn't look like any drips coming out. So now let's get on and change the oil filter. So there's a little nut on the back of the cylinder here. It's actually quite hard to see, but we want to loosen that nut on the back, on the top of the cylinder, and then the cylinder itself should actually unscrew like a can. Again, never done one of these, so let's just find out. I'll try not to block the view too much as I do this. Of course, you can hear the dog barking at me. You know it's me. I've just got to give him a little wave. He knows it's me out here, but there's a lot of stuff in the way of the window. Right, I'm going to move the bucket of oil underneath this and get my rag ready. My Stranger Things rag. Because I feel like there will definitely be some residue, and this will probably have quite a lot of oil in, and the filter. So yeah, look, that just starts to unscrew, so you no longer then need the actual spanner. There should be a rubber seal in here as well. That sort of seals this as it goes on. Why is the supervisor barking at me? Unless I'm doing something wrong. You never know. Right, nearly off. Got to be nearly off now. There we go, now we're off. Okay. Yes, as you can see, well, you probably can't see, there's some oil dripping off the end of this unit. So this is the old filter. And he's actually a external paper housing. The modern ones are a metal housing. I'll show you the new one I'll be putting in. And there's a lot of oil and a lot of thick gunge at the bottom there. This hasn't been serviced in a very long time. So what we do is we bag up and discard this oil filter at our registered waste dealer, and then I'll clean out this canister and get all the gunk out of the bottom, and then I'll get you the new one and I'll show you what we do with it. Okay, so we've now got that cleaned inside thoroughly. We try not to do things by halves. If you can give something a good clean while it's apart, you just as well. The spring fell off, which goes in there. That fell off while I was pouring the excess oil, but that's what holds the air filter taut. I believe it goes up that way, so the cone facing down, and it goes over a threaded female piece of bar in there, which is what screws onto the air filter bolt. Also on the oil filter, also on the oil filter was this old, very thin, very depleted O-ring to seal it, but the new filter comes with a new one. They'll often come with an O-ring of 2 sizes, so this one's only come with 1, but fortunately it's the right size, so we're okay. And this is the oil filter itself. So normally they have this sort of circular metal coating on the outside as well, but this one that's arrived, which is for a TED20, has not. But I'll move the camera now and we'll reassemble it all and then get it filled up with oil. This is where the oil filter goes on, and this is where our new O-ring is gonna sit over inside this groove here. So we'll just fiddle around and get it inside that groove a second. How, very much to my displeasure, I've had to actually use a little bit of mitre adhesive, tiny little smidgy, to glue the O-ring in. He's just not quite wide enough. Came with the kit. This is it. It's a Beyond filter. It's the one that the manufacturer sent me. Had on the box, on the packaging and on the invoice that it was for a TED20 Ferguson. It's in now and it will seal. But I've spent about 35 minutes just trying to put a circular piece of rubber like that, and it shouldn't be like that. It really shouldn't be like that for something this basic and simple. This isn't a hugely advanced machine, so that was a little disappointing. But anyway, we can screw the oil filter back on now, and fill it up with oil, so that's a good thing. Someone shouting at the supervisor. So we're using LubeTech Straight SAE 40, non-additive, treated oil, monograde, detergent free. It's just what was recommended to me. Any SAE 40 will really do. I found mixed reviews online as to how much oil the engine takes. Some forums saying put in 3.9 litres. Now this is a 5 litre tub. Some forums are saying it's about 7 litres. So I ordered 2 5 litre tubs. But all you can do really is you're going to end up over ordering. Is just check the dipstick as you go. You often find with these suppliers of the oil, so dipstick out, give it a wipe, put it in again. Yeah, so we are currently not quite, there's the camera, at that middle line there. So we need some more. So it's looking like it's going to be more like the 7 litres worth, because I've probably going to got about a litre in there, I'd say maybe. I don't know, we'll find out. But this is the trouble I found. Oh, yeah, there's a cat. The cat is not the trouble, although he looks like he's about to spray on me. The trouble I found with reading things online, the manuals are quite old and often not very clear. But I found that by reading online, this isn't like a conventional dipstick that has the lower level, the middle, and then the max level. The top line on that dipstick indicates full, which is where it should be. So it is about 7 litres you need in a Ferguson TED20. Now what we're going to do next, just while we're servicing and changing oil, the air filter here, excuse me, I've just had a cup of tea and it's making me burp, I don't know why. The air filter here, this lower half is actually an oil bath. The air gets sucked through the dash and down in an internal tube, a little sort of maybe 40 diameter pipe into an oil bath, and then up through the outside and down into the carburettor, and the oil collects all the dirt and grime. I had to order 2 5 litre tubs of oil, of which I've used 7 litres. So I just as well put some nice clean oil into here. Now you can use just your old engine oil, because it is just collecting some grime from the air. But I've got this amount of spare oil. I don't know when I'm next going to need to service this tractor, because as I say, Frankie just goes to little charity runs and things. So actually, it'd be prudent to put a bit of good oil in it. So we'll undo this and we'll have a little look. Okay, so we're giving that a good clean out. I just wipe it out with the oily rag, because after a job like this, the oily rag just gets thrown away. But you can go in and put some petrol or some white spirit in there to give it a really thorough clean. But as you can see, that's a clean air filter bowl. Now the first one we used will have some dribbles in the bottom, so we'll use that first. There is a line here, and that is the fill line. Sorry, that wasn't very clear. That's the fill line for the oil, and there are little holes within the internal part to let the oil drain out into the external part, or the outer oil bath, should I say. I can't see on the camera because of the sun where we're going to get this in the shot or not. I think we are. We just pour some nice clean oil in there, let that drain through. Okay, so that was enough to pretty much fill the internal bowl. You can see that marking for the air filter on the inside of the oil bath. So you can't really go wrong, you know, you don't have to worry. There we go. That's all it takes. It's still about 3 3/4 litres in there. So there's plenty of oil if we need to top up at any point. And that should, all going well, just slide back up onto Frankie's actual air filter there. You make sure this is over the rim, this ridge part. Oh, you can't see that, my apologies. There you go. Sorry, so I just slid it up underneath this. There's a lot of play in there, so it's nice and easy. It's not a hard thing to do. And get that tighter. It wasn't particularly tight before, but I suppose the only risk there is that you lose a bit of oil when you're out and about, going over bumps in the field. Get that tight. Hold it on there. And there we go. That is the oil filter, the air filter changed. Oil pressure is right up. So I don't know if you can hear me, but the oil pressure before would go up to about 30, and then when it's hot it would drop down to nothing. That suggests that we now have good oil pressure in here. I'll give it some rev to let it heat up a bit. Now the engine's got a nice and hot now, and I've just reduced the revs to a nice steady kick over, and you can see oil pressure is holding at around, well, between 20 and 30, I don't know if that's bar. I'll look at that, it's bar or PSI, I'll put it right here. Bim. That funny sound you're hearing is the little cap, by the way. Getting the wedge open. One thing I will say, if you're going to service your tractor, it sounds a lot better. It sounds like it's running smoother, it sounds like everything's firing neatly. I don't want to jinx it, but it sounds less knocky and grindy. Obviously the black that is in the engine oil when you change it, you can see in the bucket under there if I don't fall over my toolbox, the black is actually dirt and grime, like sooty compounds, metal filing compounds from the pistons and from the bearings, bits of diluted grease, bits of TVO oil that doesn't seep through from the TVO system when that was used many years ago, which isn't good to have floating around the system anyway. So the fact that we've now got this nice smooth running sound, again still nice steady oil pressure in the middle of the gauge, really pleasing, really pleasing. Accident that. I just sat this side. Before I finish up, there's a couple of things. Firstly, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Tor Printing, for all of our coveralls and clothing. Incredible safety clothing they do, and just regular clothing that you can brand. So yes, Tor Clothing in Glastonbury, Somerset, brilliant. And the Farming Community Network, who we mention in all of our videos. If you suffer with any mental health condition, you are struggling with your bookkeeping, excuse the noise, there's a road past the yard here. You're struggling with your bookkeeping, you don't understand the latest agricultural practices, you're in bereavement, just give the Farming Community Network a call. I'll put their number and QR code to scan here, BIM, and yeah, they'll help you out, or they'll direct you to help. They're a fantastic bunch. The last thing, like and subscribe, but also, given I was so hazy whether this was 73, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, we have a free PDF for you on how to date your vintage tractor. Email tractorpdf@gmail.com, or for £6, which is the cost of printing, plus £1 going to the Farming Community Network, you can get a perfect bound, professionally published book We make no profit. And as I say, £1 goes to the Farming Community Network, and we will post that out to you. So email tractorpdf@gmail.com. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Any questions, you know, fire it in the comments, because I'm not a pro at this. So yeah,